This is a top-tier criminal organization made up of Special Forces operatives. Not only are they well-equipped, but each one possesses extraordinary skills. At this moment, they've set their sights on a mining area controlled by a gang. They used drones to observe the guards in the target area and obtain their coordinates. Donning their balaclavas, the crew immediately sprang into action, marching powerfully towards the mining area. A powerful barrage of gunfire instantly cleared their path. They successfully entered the mining area and began wiping out the remaining gang members. After clearing the area, they drove away trucks loaded with their spoils. The entire operation took less than 5 minutes. Back at their base, they used metal detectors to find special rocks, then swung sledgehammers to smash them open. Inside were priceless gold bars. As more and more rocks were smashed, the table was soon piled high with tempting gold bars. After dividing the gold bars, Shama returned to his luxurious mansion and stored them in his trophy room. The stash there was enough for his family to squander for 8 generations. That evening, the crew celebrated with their wives and children at a dinner party. But Shama didn't expect one of his teammates to hand in his resignation. Perhaps it was his age and newfound attachments, but when bullets whizzed past his ears today, he actually felt fear. The teammate also advised Shama to retire, arguing that their current savings were more than enough for them to live comfortably without continuing this life of violence and bloodshed. Shama felt swayed by this, but could he truly walk away clean? The answer, of course, was no. With great power comes great responsibility. The very next day, his sister showed up at his door. Someone had just broken into her house and taken her daughter. His sister knew about Shama's current dealings and suspected this might be the work of an enemy, so she blamed everything on him. Shama, who had wanted to retire, had no choice but to put that thought aside for his sister's sake. A lightly dressed woman knocked on the hotel room door. A gaunt old man opened it. After entering, the woman immediately grabbed his hands and put handcuffs on him. The old man thought it was some new trick, but the next second the woman opened the room door. And 2 people ransacked the room right in front of him. However, when the 2 went outside to check their spoils, they were both stunned. The package was full of drugs. They had only intended to get some pocket money, but now they were in big trouble. Sending it back now was clearly not wise, so the 2 simply decided to make the best of a bad situation and take the goods back to their hideout. But the thugs at the hideout were also undecided. They couldn't afford to provoke anyone with so many drugs, and if discovered, it would be a death sentence. Those with a bit more courage thought they should turn these drugs into cash. Ultimately, the minority yielded to the majority, and they decided to sell the merchandise. The old man went out and found the big drug lord. Learning that his goods had been stolen, the boss ordered him to retrieve them at all costs. Meanwhile, Nick, led by an introducer, met with a buyer who could take all of the goods. Unexpectedly, the buyer found him unfamiliar and decided to take advantage. Not only was Nick brutally beaten, but all the goods he brought were also stolen. And another girl involved in the robbery was taken from her home by the gang. To uncover the truth and rescue his niece, Shama went to his niece's bedroom to look for clues. It was then that he keenly noticed someone staking out his sister's house. Shama strode purposefully towards the Audi owner. Shama grabbed his hair, dragged him inside, and found his niece's medical insurance card on him. After a series of interrogations, the thug recounted what happened. It turned out that since the goods were with Molly, he had returned this time to use his niece's phone to contact Molly, forcing her to exchange the goods for the girl. Just then, the thug's boss called. Hearing that the person answering the phone was the uncle of the girl who stole the goods, the gang boss instantly became enraged. He gave Shama 1 day to release his subordinate and find the goods, or prepare to collect his niece's body. To save her, Shama had no choice but to let the thug go. He then looked through his niece's phone, found her chat history with Molly, and got Molly's location. He found Molly, but she claimed she didn't know where the goods had gone. Shama had no choice but to take Molly hostage and summon her associates, threatening Molly's life to finally ascertain the drugs' whereabouts. Just then, Braid Guy, who had stolen the goods, showed up. This group of people, desperate for the merchandise, actually wanted to eliminate them.
Go, 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 go! Searche mon équipe, putain! Marteau-Lit, démarre!
Led by Molly and her crew, Shama directly stormed Braid Guy's territory. Without any resistance, he quickly took control of Braid Guy's wife and children and successfully located the 10 kilograms of goods. He sent a photo of the goods to the crime boss. Once confirmed, the two were about to leave, only to be ambushed by Braid Guy. The two, holding the children, made their way onto the street with the gang boss and his men close behind. In desperation, Shama hijacked an elderly woman's car and handed the children over to her. After getting the drugs, he arranged a meeting point with the other party. The next day, the two arrived with the goods to ransom the girl, but the other party went back on their word. After taking the goods, they didn't fulfill their promise. It turned out the boss was impressed by Shama's abilities. The boss once again used his niece as leverage, telling him that 300 kilograms of drugs would appear in the city in 3 days. If Shama could snatch this shipment from his rival, he would absolutely keep his word and release his niece. Shama called up his old comrades from the battlefield, and the guys decided to come out of retirement to lend him a hand. Since they were going to undertake a major operation, powerful weaponry was essential. Meanwhile, Molly also gathered a few teammates. They decided to assist Shama in seizing the 300 kilograms of drugs. Subsequently, Shama went to the port to observe the terrain. After just a few minutes, the layout of the area was etched in his mind. That night, they split into several groups. Nick, with professional equipment, arrived at a house. This device could replicate car key signals. He extended the antenna and began searching for the signal source, quickly picking up a signal in a corner. This way, without anyone knowing, the car doors were opened and the vehicle for their operation was secured. Another team controlled the truck driver's family to prevent the driver from acting rashly. At the same time, Pedro extracted the foreman, who knew the inside scoop, from Heaven's Valley. However, this foreman was tight-lipped. No matter how much they beat him, he refused to reveal the transport truck's number. The gang was about to spring into action, but then the foreman suddenly became unreachable. The crime boss realized something might be wrong, so he dispatched additional personnel and ordered the convoy to depart. Time ticked by, and the foreman was beaten to the point of foaming at the mouth, yet there was still no progress. At a crucial moment, Molly came up with a plan. She got a photo of the truck driver. She entered the port. She quickly found the driver transporting the goods using the photo. She walked towards the truck, then drew her pistol and took control of the driver. Molly told him to follow his original route, and the truck driver obediently complied. In the warehouse, the team already had vehicles and weapons ready for backup. Seeing the cargo truck leave the port, the gang's men immediately followed. However, Shama had anticipated this. He slammed on the gas and crashed into the back of their car. Everything was going smoothly according to plan. Molly told the driver to head to the warehouse, while Shama and the others controlled the unconscious thugs. After doing all this, they also converged on the warehouse. The gang boss, seeing the truck deviate from its planned route, knew something was seriously wrong and immediately dispatched men for support. Meanwhile, Shama and his team returned to the warehouse. The truck was full of toys containing drugs. They immediately transferred them to the waiting box truck. However, just as they were about to leave, a group of heavily armed thugs tracked the signal to the warehouse. With their incredibly precise marksmanship, the team quickly dealt with the thugs in front of them. But during the retreat, Nick was unfortunately shot and fell. The gang boss almost fainted when he saw this. Back at the base, Shama took photos of the drugs and sent them to the person who had kidnapped his niece. The two sides arranged a meeting point, goods for person. That evening, he brought the goods to the agreed location to redeem his niece. Unexpectedly, the other party went back on their word. Now that his niece was rescued, Shama didn't completely burn his bridges. He left one person alive, telling him to report all the goods and today's events to their boss. Andy, who had kidnapped Shama's niece, got the shipment, but before he could even properly secure it, his father found out. It turned out that Andy had made Shama steal a shipment belonging to his father's business partner. So his father told Andy to hand over the goods. But who wouldn't be tempted by 300 kilograms of merchandise? The old man changed his mind as soon as he got his hands on it. He decided to secretly keep the entire shipment and then falsely claim that the drugs had been stolen. This way, he protected his son and avoided offending his partner. To ensure his partner had no one to testify, he immediately went on a killing spree against everyone involved in the port operation. Meanwhile, Molly went to the hospital to visit the injured Nick. However, no sooner had she left to get water for Nick than the assassin arrived in the ward. When Molly returned, Nick was dead in his hospital bed. Molly immediately rushed out of the room, grabbed a box, and headed towards the woman she had just brushed past. At a crucial moment, Shama, who had come to visit Nick, arrived just in time and opened fire on the assassin. Shama successfully rescued Molly. However, he didn't realize that the female assassin had turned around and gone straight to his sister's house. Andy, not wanting to be controlled by his father, reported his father's location to the police. It turned out that the bald boss was a wanted fugitive. If caught, the lightest sentence would be life imprisonment. Meanwhile, Shama learned that his sister's family was being hunted. He made 2 fake passports for them, telling them to leave and start a new life. At this point, a woman called Shama, claiming she could help him with his current troubles and even knew he had made fake passports to send his sister's family away. Shama was very curious about this person, and that night, the two met in a car. The woman stated that she had already cleared them of robbery suspicions and also told him that the bald boss was now in prison. However, this was definitely not good news because he could still target them from jail, and then none of his family or friends would be able to escape. Shama didn't understand what she was trying to say. The woman then told Shama that tomorrow was the bald boss's last court hearing before imprisonment. Shama needed to intercept him on the way, bring him to her, and then she would kill him herself. It turned out that through her investigation, the woman knew the bald boss had killed her parents many years ago. This time, she had meticulously planned to exact her blood revenge and promised Shama a $2 million down payment, with an additional $8 million to be paid after the job was done. Upon returning, he gathered his old comrades. Although this operation carried significant risk, the high reward enticed them, so they decided to undertake this final job. Subsequently, Shama called the woman, stating that the final payment needed to be made in advance, or the deal was off. Having no choice, the woman agreed to his terms. Soon, Shama received the transfer and the escort vehicle's action route. The time arrived for the court hearing. They then brought the bald boss to the underground parking lot agreed upon with the employer. Shama sensed something was off because the employer wasn't waiting there in advance and wasn't answering calls. It turned out the employer didn't intend to spare any of them. The person had actually informed the gang they had robbed of their meeting location. The moment the two sides met, a fierce gun battle immediately erupted. Shama decided to go to his sister's house to save them, but it was too late. By then, the assassin had already reached his niece's home.
On part tout de suite.
Shama returned home and was devastated by the tragic scene in the house. He swore to make the killer pay a blood price. Soon, Pedro drove up, bringing with him an assassin who had attacked the coffee shop.
Braqueuse.
Having obtained the location, the two immediately prepared their weapons and equipment, resolutely embarking on their path of revenge. Under Shama's precise control, a drone crashed into a power conduit. With a loud bang, the entire factory plunged into chaos. The heavily armed Shama and his companion burst in. Shama found the employer who had betrayed them. She apologized for what happened to Shama's family, saying she just wanted revenge. Because she was pregnant and didn't want to commit further killings, she had entrusted the long-haired crime boss to eliminate the bald boss for her. She never expected that Shama and Long Hair had a previous feud, which led to this whole series of events. In the end, he spared the woman's life. However, on his way to find Long Hair, he was ambushed and shot multiple times. Pedro had no choice but to abandon the chase, rushing Shama to the hospital for emergency treatment, then turning and leaving with Molly. Meanwhile, Long Hair, who had escaped, was about to leave the area with his family. But the two did not brutally kill them in front of the children. Instead, they had their teammates secure evidence of Long Hair's crimes, then notified the police to arrest him, ensuring this heinous crime boss faced legal justice. After the two left, Molly walked into the hospital where Shama was being rescued, carrying a pistol.